Alright, there's this video I wanted to watch. Apparently it's bad. Well, maybe not bad, but like some game journalist takes or something. Has anybody seen it?
Which is unfortunate. Video, which may end up being my last one for a while, which is unfortunate. I don't really want to make this video. I know it will probably get me yelled at a certain amount by existing fans, calling me a tourist or whatever. I'm a new player. I'm a new player to Path of Exile, so I can only give my take, but this is based on an article I wrote today about Path of Exile 2's endgame. And that was sort of a reaction to
game
my own
journalism.
experience, and then a video I watched from Kriparian, who is a great YouTuber. I watched so much of his stuff during Diablo, and he's great. And he really articulates the issues that I'm having and made me feel like I'm not really alone. And the end result is like, I gotta stop playing this for the time being. Where I am currently at in the game, it does not seem like there's a reasonable path forward to continue. Again, this is early access. I will fully acknowledge that, and clearly it is an early access for a reason, because this endgame is not it for, I would say, the vast majority of players. I also think I have probably played more than a lot of, quote-unquote average players. Not as much as, the 14, 15 hour a day grinding streamer guys, but probably more than a lot of people who have just been kind of, playing the early access when they have a free moment or two. This is my job, so I have
Well, here's the thing, right? I think the game's in a fine state for most players. But the reality of Path of Exile is you need a lot of time if you want to do everything in the game. People go in with the expectation that they should be able to do everything, and that's where people get upset at. I don't know if that's what this video is going to say, but historically with PoE 1, that's people's problem. Like, PoE 1 is actually great for casual players. You just can't expect to be on the same level of content that streamers are on.
a lot more time.
I don't know if that's what he's gonna say, I'm just saying.
I've gone
Oh, let me turn this game music off.
through the campaign 2 times, once on normal, once on cruel difficulty, which is ironic because cruel is much easier because your build is really ramped up.
I don't know, I don't think there's a really huge early wall for maps anymore because you can just trade for like 10x and blast because there's a shit ton of like super good gear for cheap.
By that point,
like all the gear I was selling for 40x like 5 days ago is now like a 2x item. Like this piece of poop armor would have sold for 30 like 5 days ago. Now it's probably 1. Same things with like a lot of these.
Point where at lower levels, it can be really challenging. Crip talks about how Act 2 was like the hardest the game was for him because you can be so underpowered at that point, especially melee, that you can't really do anything about it because you can't really farm up in a traditional sense in an act because that's just not really how it's structured. So you are a little bit stuck until you figure out some of these fights. It was challenging. It was definitely, there were challenging aspects to it, especially in normal, and I'm okay with that. I do not need to be a Diablo 4 steamroller of just, blowing up entire screens of guys and, just not really feeling any challenge even at kind of the hardest difficulties. It's fun, certainly, but I appreciated Path of Exile's more kind of methodical pace. The bosses, which, maybe not fully Dark Souls, but that kind of idea where you learn their attack patterns, trial and error, all this stuff. So by the end, I was cruising. I think I beat all of the act bosses in anywhere from 1 to 3 tries with my ranger build. And I was excited to get to the end game because, there's a ghost. Evie. She came. um, I felt my build was like, okay, I'm gonna keep powering it up. I'm gonna keep leveling up, and this endgame looks really interesting. It's like this big map. You got all these different nodes. You plug in
It's a
waystones for like
Corgos.
different levels of
I'm
challenge
blocking
and
it. You
things.
can't see it.
And that sounded pretty cool to me. It
It's
seemed like
gone.
a really interesting setup. There's a whole new skill tree for it, and I'm like, all right, let's take it on. This is nothing like the game that came before it. Um, the main issues here are that all of these dungeons are now, or these maps are now one death over. You have one life, and if you die for any reason, you're out of the map. And not only you're out of the map, you can also no longer go back to that same map because it eats your waypoint token. So
I mean, you can just open another map. It doesn't X out the mode.
you have to go grind out a new waypoint token, usually on a lower level, depending on how many of these you have, and then get back up to that tier, and then hope you don't die again. One death per level, especially at like the base levels of these, seems overly punishing. That is certainly not how the normal game worked in any capacity.
I'm like, I mean, I'm I'm elitist 24/7 poop sock gamer or whatever, but like I really just I do not understand the concept people have that I lost, therefore I should be able to go back and win. Like I don't understand that. It's not even like why I don't they're like there's so many games that are like this and nobody complains about it. Why do so many people complain about it in PoE? Like you get like 99 point you've been pulling a WoW boss for 8 hours. You get it to 1% and you die. Nobody's like I've never heard anybody say like, "Wow, I wish I could go back in with just that 1% life left." Why is it only in PoE people are like this?
Uh, Dying was like not the greatest because it would set you pretty far back on the map, and not only would you have to trek all the way back, but they would respawn all the enemies. It wasn't, it was kind of annoying, but it was fine. And then all the bosses, they were hard, but they would at least spawn you right outside again. Again, a lot of boss fights are trial and error, learning their moves, figuring out how to beat them. And unless you were just so powerful, you would tank a boss, one shot a boss, whatever, really easily. They're certainly all about trial and error. The young game is not like this all. And the problem with the one death thing is, okay, maybe I could, that's a challenge and it's not ideal, but you just play really, really carefully. Yes, but that only works to a point. And, you will find at certain points in the game, kind of no matter what your build is, depending on where you are in the game, that it is possible to get one shot. And then the further you go, it almost becomes more possible because of enemy damage scaling. And that's certainly true on a ranger, which relies on kind of dice roll evasion to get around stuff. And obviously on melee, you're getting hit a lot more.
Did they? I don't actually know. Is evasion like it is in PoE 1 with the entropy system? Does anybody know? Actually, it is? Yeah, so it's not actually a dice roll. If it still works the same way, evasion's not actually a dice roll.
So not only are you losing a map, but like any rogue hit from any big enemy can theoretically kill you.
I mean, like, I things are overtuned, but myself as a ranger, like, if you just build evasion, yeah, you're gonna die sometimes. Like, what do you? I don't know what he expects. Like, even if the game wasn't overtuned, that would still happen. That's literally like how evasion works. If you only build it like that, if you only build evasion, that's what happens. Thanks for the sub, KB.
And I'm like, okay, well, this isn't great, and I don't really love how this is going, but is this just the beginning? Like, am I just not strong enough to be taking this on, even if I am kind of at the lower ranks? And like, yeah, I was beating some of the lower maps and stuff, but then you'd take a one hit and then lose your stone, and now I'm out of stones and trying to figure out what to do. And then I watched
Farm
the
the
crypt
beetle.
video, and the crypt video kind of laid everything out. It is the video that just straight up made me like, yeah, I'm out. Okay, like this is not something I want to play. The issue there is like the long and short is it doesn't get any better from here. It gets worse.
That's
And
not
what Crip
true.
explains is that the further you get into this, uh, the deaths get more and more punishing. So everything is one death you're out of the map, but you get further in, you start losing XP,
I mean,
and
okay,
Lord
that's
knows how
true.
hard
That's
it is
true.
to gain XP at higher levels already. So you'll lose some percentage of your XP if you die. You will not only lose your higher tier waystone, but in some of these places you will lose all of
But why should you not lose something for losing?
the connecting points to like where you just got to. So you'll have to replay those maps to get all the way back up to what you need. And in those lower maps, according to him, like you're not farming anything remotely at all that you need. So you could do that for an hour, get all the way there, die again, go back. You've lost XP. So
Okay, but if you're not sustaining high tier maps anyways, you're not farming it regardless. You're not gonna. It's not like you die once and you go down 10 tiers and you're stuck there forever.
like you can actually be behind where you started at that tier. And like as annoying as it is to have to start a map over and lose your waystone, that sounds infinitely more annoying the higher you get. The second
So,
thing he verifies is that this one-shotting thing is not gonna stop. Like not really in any build. He's talking about how like you have to build for like 3,000 HP, like all the armor you can, max resistance, all of the stuff. And even then, you can still get one shot or at least killed in very cheap ways. And he talks about, floor effects that you can barely even see that kill you, or enemy attacks that are not telegraphed, or elite modifiers that you
I
have to
mean,
like fully
like this point's true. The game's unbalanced right now, and they're slowly fixing it, like with the coming
understand as they're
patch. Like that is a valid point.
running towards you that you can't avoid, because there are no movement skills in this game. And he talks about how the entire game essentially is based around dodge rolls and not screwing up dodge rolls, because if you are in a situation where you can get one hit, the only way you can always avoid that theoretically is hitting every dodge roll perfectly. And obviously I know there are like these highest tier guys who are like have the best builds in the world and are like crazy APM dodge roll folks, but like Crip is a top tier player, and if he's saying this, and I've seen other top players saying this too, like what hope do any of us have? And it's enough to just sort of make me stop playing. I don't see a reason to keep going here if it's not really even about getting stronger. If it's not like I just am not skilled enough or whatever because I don't hit every single dodge roll in every single map. Like that to me is nothing like what I've played so far. And I feel like I've heard some people pushing back on this. Asmongold made a video about Crip's video. Of course, I guess I'm doing that here, but I'm not playing Crip's video. Where he's like, oh, like it's not that hard. Like he's complaining too much. And like both Asmongold switched off of a warrior because it was too hard and switched to something else. And also like a lot of the people complaining are not in the end game. They might be on cruel difficulty or something. Like, well, I'm on cruel difficulty and this game isn't hard at all.
You've
It's like,
got
yeah,
mail.
that's true. Cruel difficulty was not very hard, but
You're
you
saying a
get
lot of
into the
nothing
end
right
game, you
now.
play an hour of that and figure out like how this is going and how this is going to work. I think you will probably end up being where I'm at. And the thing is like I don't want to abandon this game. Like I really enjoy Path of Exile. I had a great time with the 50 whatever hours I put
I
in
mean,
it
if
to
you
beat
enjoy it, then you don't abandon
both
it.
stages of the campaign. I'm just so
I hate when
disappointed
people say
that
that. They're like, yeah, I'm really enjoying it, but I've got to quit. That means you're not enjoying it.
the end result of this is essentially like a non-functional end game where it just
If you were really enjoying the game, you would just fix your build.
it doesn't seem remotely worth trying to play it, especially solo.
Because you're not having fun. That like people are so scared to admit they don't have fun with something.
Uh, I would love for stuff to be overhauled to the point where it actually feels rewarding for the pretty decent. If I'm steamrolling everything on cruel, I'd at least like to participate in the end game in a more meaningful extent than like just the base lower tier ones, and even those, if you step the wrong way, you can lose.
So wait, I don't know. He wants to go to higher tier maps on campaign gear? I don't get it. Why would you be able to do more than low tier maps on campaign gear?
And there's nothing, you can really do about your build to fully change that, according to, other people.
That what? No, that is not what Crypt was saying.
Lower tier ones, and even those, if you step the wrong way, you can lose. And there's nothing, you can really do about your build to fully change that.
I mean, yeah, some things, but like, dude, I don't know. I don't die to. I'm very squishy outside of my evasion, and I do not actually die that much except to the few overtuned things. I don't think there's nearly as many overtuned things as I originally thought. I think there's maybe like 5 monsters. Which, I mean, that's still a lot. 5 monsters is a lot because you'll see them pretty often, but
according to, other people. I can imagine maybe this will be fixed and overhauled over time. I looked at what they're changing.
True, but you also have crazy CC with the gloves. Well, yeah, it's called the... You gotta come up with something, right? That's the game. You have to make your build good somehow.
The end game, and it was just like, we're adding more rare packs so you can finish maps faster or something like that. And like, they didn't address anything about difficulty or whatever. And like, to be clear, I'm not anti-difficulty. There were very, very challenging parts in this game, in the early campaign, especially when you don't have the build. That
when did this release? 23 hours. Was that before the newest patch?
A lot of trial and error. Really, kind of frustrating stuff. But you overcome.
Or not the newest patch, but like the newest announcement of the new patch.
Strategies, whatever. But if in the campaign, if I died to a boss and it kept sending me back to the previous map every single death, I would be like, screw this, I'm out of here. But that's essentially what the end game is. I don't know how much it'll change. It like the one death map thing seems kind of baked into the mode. So maybe at best they nerf enemy damage to be more reasonable, so you're just not always getting one shot.
I mean that's what they've said they're gonna do. Like they went into early access saying there's overtuned stuff and we're gonna have to fix it.
One thing that actually does scale pretty well is enemy health. Like my build was actually...
That's so wrong. Enemy health is way too low. Enemy health is far lower than it should be.
Doing still really good damage to these higher level enemies. I thought...
Oh, I think he's saying it's good because they don't get much HP.
That was a really good... My build was actually doing still... One thing that actually does scale pretty well is enemy health. Like my build was actually doing still really good damage to these higher level enemies. I thought that was a really good aspect of it. But if you're just gonna be one shot with every attack you can't dodge roll out of, or like fighting a boss where you don't know the mechanics and the first attack kills you, like what?
I think it's totally fair if you don't know the mechanic, you die. It's unfair when you do know the mechanic and it's like impossible to avoid getting one-shotted occasionally. Which some mechanics are, like those little purple balls that are like tiny that you can't see. They do way too much damage and you can't see them. There's stuff like that. But there's not like not knowing a boss mechanic and you die to it. That's kind of cooked.
What are you supposed to do about that?
Not get hit.
And the analogy I like that I put in my article is like, it's like an Elden Ring, a very challenging game that people love and like overcoming the challenge. If you fought Millennia for the first time and died and it reset, it took all of your runes and it erased all sites of grace on that part of the map. Like that is the equivalent of this here, where I think it's great that games can be challenging, but if they just put in things that are irritating and exhausting and progress erasing for its own sake, like, no, I'm not.
I mean, the waypoint part, sure enough. Losing your runes, no, you don't lose any currency or anything. Like, and you can also go back in and pick up your runes. So, I mean, it's kind of right, it's kind of not.
I'm not going to deal with that. And that's a literal waste of my time if I can play
Oh, well, actually, never mind. Yeah, never mind, never mind. That's what he was saying, is you can pick them up and you can't in PoE. Okay, I mean,
a
sure.
significant
Sure, I guess. Sure, I guess.
amount of a game and essentially get nothing for it. Like, at least right now I'm getting some XP, but if I start losing XP, what am I doing at all at that point? So
you're losing.
That's why I'm done for now.
That's what you're doing. You're losing.
Would love to come back to this. It's early access. You know, they're going to make big changes to this and that. And there's more campaign to add. I'd love to play more campaign because that was definitely the most fun I had. But I'm curious how everyone else feels about the end game if you're running.
How does he have fun in campaign, but not end game? Boy, I mean, the campaign's way harder.
Into some of the same issues I have. If you are there, or if you're not there yet, check back.
How does he streets? I don't know.
When you are.
How do you steamroll campaign, and then you get the T1 maps, and then you're getting steamrolled?
And you can see if you agree with me here. So anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you soon.
Maybe you didn't, like, notice res penalties or something. I don't know. If he made this video, like, on day 2, I would be more in agreement if this was on, like, day 2. But you can farm the beetle for 30 minutes and you can buy gear that'll get you to tier 10 maps easily. Like, if this was released 10 days ago or something, I would be like, all right, fair enough. But I don't know, 10 days after release, when you'll be able to buy a full set of gear for like 10 exalts, which is nothing, and get to Act 10 or tier 10 maps or whatever. I don't know, dude. Oh. In all seriousness, I guess I want to understand why you guys are so upset about this. I'm sure of you. I mean, I don't feel like his takes were super bad or anything. People definitely made it seem like it was worse than it was. I'm not saying the game needs the changes for my sake. This is just my opinion on why it feels so tough for me to continue now personally. I understand I'm not where Crip is, but his video showed me that if the end goal is just amplifying the current issues, if I put another 100 hours in, it doesn't really feel worth it to keep going at the moment. I mean, like, that's fair, but I think if you were on an actual tanky build, I don't think one-shots are actually that common. Stuff is certainly overtuned, but I think if you are actually playing a tanky build, I don't think it's that bad. And that's already happened right after GG changed some things to make things less unfair. And I'm very much nobody is not commenting on these issues. It's the way he commented on them. The problem, like, anybody who doesn't say the game has balance issues right now is cooked, and you can basically disregard of whatever they have to think. Those people are just contrarians that want to be like, look at me, I'm so good at the game. Or something. Like, those people don't really exist. I mean, there's a few of them, and I bet they're, like, not even doing anything good. Even GGG recognizes things need to change, so I don't get why me saying it great right now because it's so incontroversial just because I'm new. No, it's because you're new that you don't understand what you're saying. Like, the way he talked about the balance and stuff was just wrong. And like, he talks about, he talks like the problem is losing, not that the problem is something wrong with the balance of the game, which the devs have been saying for months. Like, the problem with losing is not losing. My build isn't dead. I'm not quitting because I simply can't do anything now. I know I can still progress through map tiers, and I know I can buy waste nodes, but it felt like the right call to pause until things are modified a bit. Yeah, I mean, I mean that's pretty. I understand that. I've liked PoE 2. I enjoyed the campaign a lot, but I feel like they did not carry on to post-campaign. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I don't know. Like, he has the right ideas, but he explained them wrong. I feel like I watched another video like this semi-recently where they explain things that are, like, pretty true, and they just explain it in a terrible way that makes them just look like they're bad. Like, basically, this video should have been about 25 seconds, and he says, I don't like the balance of about 4 monsters in the game, so I'm quitting. Which is fair. I mean, I think that's a fair point to quit, but that's basically what the video should have been. 25 seconds, he says, game unbalanced for me. I don't want to play. I'm going to play later when it's not unbalanced. But I have a feeling no matter what they do, it's kind of like in PoE 1. PoE 1 is a very balanced game. People still think there's random one-shots and it's unbalanced. I have a feeling that's not going to change with this game. Like, PoE 1 is balanced very, very well. I imagine PoE 2 will eventually also get there, but people will still think it's unbalanced because they're bad. But only time will tell if that's true. I mean, I think at the end of the day, that like I think PoE 1. It's hard to say on PoE 2 with it being so new, but I think PoE is a great casual game. But it's not built for casuals, but it's a great casual game. Which means a lot of casuals won't like it, and that's fair. But not every game has to be a casual game.